Good afternoon, students. Welcome back. Today we are going to cover the topic that we briefly discussed in the last session, that was on 25th, and that topic is inbound and outbound logistics. The words inbound and outbound themselves define that we are talking about inbound freight. When we are talking of logistics, if you remember, we are discussing about all activities within a particular organization. The logistics system or the logistics activities in a particular organization include inbound logistics. So, by logistics system, if you remember, we mentioned logistics system comprises of facilities which functions either as a warehouse, functions as a manufacturing unit, as an assembly, or maybe a distribution point or a transshipment point, or for transportation, for sorting, for purchase, for consumption. So, a particular organization, it can be a supplier, it can be a manufacturer. So, as a supplier, as a particular company, as a supplier, he would have inbound logistics. He would be receiving raw materials from his suppliers. Once the goods are processed, the final goods are sent to his customer, and for him the customer is the manufacturer. So, logistics management include management of inbound logistics and outbound logistics. On the next phase, for a manufacturer, shipments coming in from the supplier is through an inbound logistics process. This is inbound shipment for the manufacturer. Once the raw materials are processed and finished goods are made, the manufacturer in turn does an outbound logistics. The shipment goes through an outbound logistics process for the next customer, which could be the distributor. So, if you see, students, each and every enterprise or an organization, they go through or they have to manage an inbound and outbound logistics. By logistics system, so this particular company, which could be a supplier or a manufacturer or distributor, he would have a number of facilities. The facilities may be involved in manufacturing, the facility may be involved in warehousing or sorting, transportation, transshipment point, assembly. So, entire logistics system related to this particular organization involves a number of facilities, and if you remember, in the logistics system all these facilities are connected by transportation system. So, all these facilities together, they form a logistics system. So, managing logistics system, managing this particular logistics system is extremely important and vital, because each of the logistics system finally adds up to the supply chain management system. In order to maintain the logistics system very efficiently, each and every company or enterprise, they have to properly manage the inbound and their outbound logistics system. we will go to the slide and see what is the definition of logistics management. Logistics management plays a significant role in the success of any company's operations and has a direct impact on its bottom line. More importantly, logistics processes play a big part in customer satisfaction, which is more important than low product cost. Logistics professionals should be customer facing, should be customer oriented, and it should add value for their customers. So, if you see students, there are few words which are extremely important over here, which has been written in red, and what are they? Bottom line, customer satisfaction, more important than cost, customer facing approach, and value addition. As an efficient logistics manager and for efficient logistics management, these are the very important areas that a particular manager or logistics manager should always keep in mind, and that would only result in efficient logistics management, whether it is inbound logistics or outbound logistics. We will again see what logistics management is all about. It is that part of the supply chain management that plan, implements and control the efficient, effective forward and reverse flow and storage of goods, services, related information between the point of origin and the point of consumption in order to meet customers' requirement. So, what is this management all about? It is about planning. After plans have been made, the plans needs to be implemented, and there should be a regular control, there should be a regular follow up, there should be a regular check as to whether this implementation is going as per plan. So, there has to be a control on the overall management. And what are all these covers? They cover movement of goods, storage of goods. When we say movement of goods, it is not only movement from the supplier to the manufacturer, then to the customer, but we are also talking of reverse flow as well. Reverse logistics, reverse flow play an efficient reverse logistics play a very important part in deciding the efficiency of logistics management. It also involves in transit storage, inventory management, how quickly and efficiently information about the logistics movement are provided to each and every functional group, individuals, managers, and what is the ultimate objective of doing all that? The ultimate objective is customer satisfaction. We did mention earlier that the advent of supply chain management, the concept of supply chain management is primarily because the need of the customer, the demand of the customer, the requirement of the customer is important than costs. Quite often we get confused about logistics and supply chain management. I think by this time this ambiguity, this confusion should not be there, since this has been discussed and the difference has been very clearly explained to you. Logistics management is part of the supply chain management. First, let us read out from the slide what logistics management and supply chain management is all about and what is the difference. So, logistics management is often confused with supply chain management. Supply chain management has broader objective and actually compasses logistics management. Logistics management includes inter-enterprise, multifunctional process, targets everything from supplier inbound freight to the end. Logistics management is more practical, hands-on part of the supply chain, where goods are transported in a facility, properly stored, handled, transported out. Logistics management focus on short-term procedures and supply chain management focus on a long term. So, let us come back to the board as we have been discussing over here. There is logistics management over here, there is logistics management involved over here. Logistics management involved with the supplier, logistics management involved only with the manufacturer, logistics management involved only with the distributor. Further on, logistics management is involved only with the retailer, and there is logistics management involved between retailer and the end customer. So, it is a more practical, a short term process, a hands on process. So, the entire logistics management put together, all the logistics manager added up constitutes supply chain management process. Supply chain management, one very important word in the slide was inter-enterprise. So, logistics speaks of intra-enterprise and supply chain management talks of inter-enterprise. Now, what is intra-enterprise? That means within the enterprise, within a particular organization, management involved in managing logistics within the organization, a supplier or a manufacturer or a distributor or a retailer. It receives shipment, each one of them, it processes the shipment, it may sort, it may manufacture from raw materials. The functions could be different depending upon where they stand. They would store the shipment, they would transport the shipments out of their facility for the customer. So, that logistics process within the organization, intra-organizations, intra-enterprise is logistics management. This concept has to be very clearly understood, and all logistics management put together constitute supply chain management. That is the basic difference. So, supply chain management is a long term issue, is a long term concept, whereas logistics management is a more real time and a short term issue. That is the specific and clear demarcation and difference between logistics and supply chain management. We have explained in our previous classes what is logistics and what is supply chain as a process, as a theory, as a practice. Here we are discussing the difference in management of logistics and supply chain. Let us go back to the screen and see what logistics strategy is all about. Every company needs to build a strategy as to how it should manage the logistics system. And why should they have a strategy? They should have a strategy, they should develop and implement a logistic strategy that will add flexibility to the decision making process, increase the error response time. A deliberate strategy will let a company predict service disruptions and know how and when to respond to them to ensure service levels stay at peak performance. So, here what we are discussing, in order to arrive at logistics management, proper logistics and an effective and efficient logistics management, everybody has to strategize to arrive at the management. Most important, the strategy should be flexible. That means a company should be in a position to change its posture, its plan, depending upon the need of the market, need of the situation. In case of any change, there should not be any problem. It should be quick enough to see whether there are any service disruptions down the line. So, predict any sort of service disruption. Predict, the word is predict, forecast, foresee, see in advance whether there is a possibility of the services getting disturbed down the line, so that they can respond, address the issue and quickly arrive at a solution. So, that should be the strategy. That is the reason why there should be a strategy, to make the system flexible and to make the company proactive. Once a strategy has been made from a proper logistics management, the strategies needs to be implemented. How these strategies are implemented? Let us look at. In the implementation process, it assess all the logistics function, take a look at every part of the organization's logistics management and define how it should work and how it should contribute to the overall supply chain management goals. Look at each physical part of the logistics process and determine its optimum functions. We spoke that logistics system is a combination of number of functions. What are these functions? These functions are manufacturing, inventory management, transportation management. Now, in order to implement this strategy to a proper logistics management, the managers or the people who are controlling the logistics function of a company, they has to assess all the logistics function, look at every individual part of the organization logistics management and how each of them contribute to the overall process. So, it is a micromanagement. The entire system has to be broken up into different functions and arrive at how should every function be made use in an optimum manner, in the best possible manner, so that all of them constitute towards a very efficient logistics process for a particular organization. I repeat, logistics system, they constitute of different functions and it is the responsibility of the logistics manager to strategize, to make a strategy how to make the best possible logistics function process. So, they look at each and every function. It is very important that I repeat, they look at each and every function, they make sure every function performs at an optimum level, so that the combined effort ensures an error free an optimum logistics process. If you do that, if all logistics function, if each and every enterprise or company in the supply chain ensures that they have the best logistics function, the entire supply chain management process is taken care of. It is a chain, it is a loop. Every unit in that loop are interconnected. Any error, any disruption in logistics management within an organization is going to spoil or is going to disturb the entire supply chain management process. Now, when we design a strategy, there are certain issues that needs to be considered. What are the issues? Do you have a way to handle expedite shipping differently than the slower moving shipments? Would it be beneficial to do so? Is my company, is my organization handle faster moving shipment, expedited shipping process than slower moving process? What am I good at? Is there a plan that defines when an item should be inventoried and when an item should be sent directly to the customer? Would it be more effective to have a third party logistics company manage some or all aspects of your logistic function? What financial and service considerations must you take into account before making these decisions? So, when you make decisions, there are some key important areas that a logistics manager or managers who controls the logistics functions of a company should take care of. He should identify its resources, its strengths, its weaknesses. He should be very conscious about its own company's strengths and weaknesses, whether it can handle bigger shipments, smaller shipment, faster shipments, or does it have an issue in handling the faster shipments. It should know whether it makes sense for him to keep a stock of the items, create an inventory, or straight away deliver shipments from the manufacturing unit to the customer. There are both benefits in both the processes. A logistics manager should look into its own internal strengths, weaknesses, resources, and decide this particular aspect, that whether he should create an inventory, he should have enough stock so that it can be delivered as and when the customer demands, or he should not keep any stock, he should not maintain any inventory at all. It should be delivered directly right from the time when it is out of the factory or the plant or the manufacturing unit to the customer. Would it make sense for him to outsource a particular function, or would that particular company perform that particular function in-house? For example, there are companies who own their own fleet of trucks. There are companies who own their own warehouses. There are companies who maintain their own distribution center. To do that, there are capital expenditure involved. There are some initial investment required. While there is an expenditure or an investment required, this particular process or this particular strategy of a company ensures that he has better control on its inventory and transportation. But at the same time, if he feels he does not have an expertise in managing the fleet, he does not have an expertise in warehousing, he does not have an expertise in distribution, he would rather outsource it to another company who has an expertise in doing that particular function. By doing a proper collaboration, he can ensure an optimal service level, but this decision whether to perform a function in-house or outsource it to another company is a big decision that logistics manager need to take. What financial and service consideration you must take into account? Whenever we decide a particular function, whenever we decide a particular process, you have to understand, does the company financial resource allows me to do that? By doing that, am I deviating from the customer service strategies taken by the promoters of the company? So, there are pros and cons. He has to have a balance between the cost, budget, customer service level. So, these are the issues that needs consideration and discussion while a company designs the strategy of its logistics management, how the logistics management should be performed within the organization. There are other issues. Let us go back to the slide. Can your distribution network be improved? Could a change of carrier or mode save money or improve? Do you carry too much inventory or too little? What are the specific service goals? Is it easy item return, delivery speed, safety? What future business operations will affect logistics functions, and are you prepared to handle them? So, this is just a continuation from the previous slide. Distribution network. There are companies, when I said distribution network, by distribution network I mean once a good is produced, that needs to reach to the final customers. There are different companies who adopt different distribution methods. A company like Dell, it follows the process of direct delivery to the customer. They do not go through a dealer, a retailer, or anybody in between. They want to ensure that the shipment is delivered exactly the way the customer wants. But that is always not possible for all the products and the goods that are produced in our economy. So, different companies have different ways. There are companies, once shipments are produced, they are sent to the distributor. The distributor in turn sends it to the different retailers, and the retailers take care of the end customers in their respective regions. So, there are sometimes people use long distance truck, people use long distance transportation, sometimes people use in transit warehouses. When I say in transit, that means a warehouse between the manufacturer and the end customer. The shipment are stored, and from there the company use a last mile delivery, they use a carrier to deliver the goods from the distribution center or the warehouse to the end customers. There will be a session, there will be a few sessions specifically for distribution network, and we will see how distribution network varies from customer to customer. There are 6, 7, 8 types of distribution network. Some follow hub and spoke system, some follow a direct system. So, coming back to our strategy, distribution network form a very important part or a strategy of a logistics manager that decides the efficiency of the overall supply chain. Should I change the carrier? Should I change your route? Should I change the warehouse? Should I change the method of delivery? Should I have enough inventory? Is there any sense in carrying too much of inventory? Am I carrying too less an inventory? Is there a danger of going stock out? How do I deliver to the customer? What should be my return process? Should I follow a method of very fast delivery to the customer? Mind you, sometimes a faster delivery may not ensure a very safe delivery. So, we have to do a balancing act between speed and security and safety. That is a very major decision making process. What future business operations may cause a disturbance in my logistics system? and I am prepared to handle it in future if the company decides a different operation or function or strategy altogether. Am I able to handle this? Am I equipped to handle this? These are few of the major decisions. The next slide tells you about vendor compliance program. Now student, I have told you whenever we discuss a subject or a chapter, it is important for us to understand so this is a program. The program is oriented around our vendors, and our vendors could be our suppliers, a logistics service provider, a 3PL service provider, maybe a business support. Now they need to comply. There should be a compliance program. This compliance program will ensure that whatever I expect the vendor to do for me is being honored and carried out. Let us first go through the slide and see what this vendor compliance program is all about before we discuss them in detail. So we see on an average companies can potentially save between 20 to 58% on inbound freight spend. A proper vendor compliance program is necessary to have competitive logistics management process. In order to have a vendor compliance program, we need to work with the vendor at every step. Rather than fighting over requirements or simply charging a vendor for bad service, collaborate with them. Focus on flow and efficiency. Using advanced cloud-based software, predict compliance issues before they occur. Don't just tell a supplier when they do something wrong, establish a mutual beneficial relationship. Help them achieve success and reward them. So let's come back to the board. Let's come back to the board and just write one word which defines the entire vendor compliance theory, and that is, this word is with. Students, the business model is changing. The business model is changing every year. It has changed over a period of last 4 and 5 decades, 50 years. The vendors earlier in the traditional business methods, vendors were expected to do exactly what the manufacturers wanted them to do or the companies wanted them to do. So the vendors were working for the manufacturers. So earlier it was for, now they work with the manufacturers or with the company. And that's the key, that's the core policy, that's the crux of supply chain management, working with, collaborating with. This is something we are going to elaborate. This is what we are going to discuss even further in the next session. Thank you very much. See you on the other side of the break.